Jasmine Angelique, and I am coming back to you with another review on a movie I just saw a few hours ago. It was called The Best of Enemies, and yeah, so let's get into it. So the movie basically had two main characters. The first main character was played by Taraji P. Henson. Her name was Ann Atwaters, and she was a civil rights activist. And then you had C.P. Ellis, who was the leader of a local branch. That's what I'm going to call it. He was a Ku Klux Klan leader. So pretty much in the movie, the whole point of the movie, which it was based on a true story, was these two people having to come together and be a part of a committee. They were co-chairs. So I guess how you would put it was, you have, Anne over here with her side, her members, basically pretty much voting yes for desegregation of schools. And then you had C.P. Ellis, who had his peers who were going to supposedly vote yeah or no on desegregation. So throughout the movie, they basically worked together. They went through all the pros, the cons, the goods, the bad, the why schools should be desegregated, why schools should stay the same, what are the challenges that the black kids face, what are the challenges that the white kids was face, being that they would bring the black kids into the schools with the whites, and how that would work. So how this first started was the black children's elementary school actually got burnt down. And what they wanted to do was, because I'm not really for sure, it almost seemed like it was just an elementary school, so that's what I'm going to talk about. I don't really know what was going on with the high schools. They had a black high school or white high school, but they were just trying to desegregate the whole school system in Durham, North Carolina, in the summer of 1970. So you go look it up. I had no clue that this was a wonderful story, and it deserved to be on the big screen for people to see it. And I hope a lot of people bring their children, and older folks and young folks and middle-aged folks and kids could go see this movie, because they can learn a lot about their history and what we went through as a country to get where we are now, and how the more things change, the more things stay the same. That's what I got from it. But I'm going to get into the movie and explain a little bit of the things that I saw that are kind of similar to what's going on today. And yeah, so let's keep it pushing. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is some of the things when he talked about a lot of times when it comes to like the black schools, that the funding for the schools was greatly, the amount of money that they were getting for the schools, kids were a year behind the white students. So they actually had this one kid stand up, and he's like, what grade are you in? And he's like, I'm in the 11th grade. And she's like, well, what books are you reading? And he's like, I'm reading 10th grade books. So they talked about, the black schools not having the same resources, and the same resources, the same, to be on the same level playing field, so that, they could be competitive in the workplace and out in the real world. I guess that's the main goal. And it still is very relevant today. Like the schools, even if you want to talk about like the Detroit education versus the schools out in the suburbs, their resources are so much greater than ours. Our opportunities are so much greater than ours. And that's representation here. It applies all over the country, And so that was some of the cons some of the pros that the blacks were trying to make as to why they need to desegregate the schools. And then some of the cons to that was, you know, well, if they're already behind, how are they going to come in and you know, and be able to do the same work? So then my child is going to be behind, and you know, and all this other type of stuff. And they came to, you know, understanding that, you know, they will bring programs like after school programs and summer school and different things to catch the children up so that they could be on the same level. So that was that. Into this committee was, they actually the NAACP came and they came because what happened was, after the elementary school got burnt down, they went to the local council committee and petitioned that the schools become desegregated, and the council denied that request. And so what ended up happening was the NAACP came and basically got lawyers, and they put in a petition to desegregate the schools across the board. And what ended up happening was, the judge at the time, which I don't know his name, he didn't want to put himself in the middle of it. Like, he kind of was like, well, I feel like, you know, this is the way that the trend of everything, because you have to remember that this was 1971, so this was after, you know, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and the desegregation of, like, you know, restaurants, and the Jim Crow era, you know, with the boycotts of the buses and the restaurants and the water fountains. But like, a lot of the schools were still segregated. And so, you know, he knew that that was the way that the trend was moving, and the train was moving into officially like desegregating the schools, but he didn't want to be the one to do it. So he actually had consulted with a lawyer or one of his you know, confidants, and he's like, you know, I know this guy, which happened to be a black man by the name of Bill Redrick. And he like, I know this guy, he did it, you know, in this other town or this other state, where, you know, he, instead of the judge making the decision, he allowed, you know, he held, you know, a seminar or like this 2-week long session where, you know, he got together and basically he brought the whole community together, blacks, whites, whoever, and they ultimately came up with a decision. And whatever the decision was after this charrettes, that's what they call it, that was the decision that ruled. So with that being said, so that's how they get to the whole pros and cons and how they became co-chairs of the committee. So